Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our monthly ASEAN Community Challenges and Opportunity program in English. My name is Dr. Wilfried Herrmann. As you know, I'm the Executive Director of the Human Development Forum Foundation, a registered Thai non-for-profit organization coping with ASEAN topics in various areas. Our main topic today is ASEAN Community Economic Challenges and Opportunities. Since 31st of December 2015, we do have the ASEAN Community. However, in the ASEAN countries, not many people care about this, and there's not much new things to see now. So we want to help to clarify some major questions in this year's program. What changed since we have ASEAN Community? Today we will center on what is the core issue of ASEAN, the economic question. And therefore I invited a very special guest, Dr. Kirida from the Thailand Development Research Institute. She is a research director there, and I'm quite sure that Dr. Kirida can answer some of the very urgent and burning questions. Good evening, Dr. Kirida. Welcome to our program, and please introduce yourself briefly.
Good evening, Wilfred. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for inviting me to your program. Well, as you have mentioned, I am a research director at the Thailand Development Research Institute, which is a leading independent think tank in Thailand. Well, my major role in the Thailand Development Research Institute, or as we call it TDRI, is on international economics research and advisory services that centers around that. And of course, with international research, ASEAN is a very important region and area that we also do research and study on. So, which is why I'm very pleased to be here today to share with you some of the, the findings that we have gathered on the progress of the ASEAN Economic Community integration.
Okay, thank you very much for this short introduction, and I'm quite sure that we will have a little bit longer talk after our commercial break.
มันเป็นขยะแต่รู้ไหมว่าขยะเหล่านี้สามารถนำมารีไซเคิลเป็นสมุดสิ่งที่มีค่าสำหรับพวกเขาได้ด้วยแนวคิดการใช้ทรัพยากรธรรมชาติอย่างรู้คุณค่าและให้เกิดประโยชน์สูงสุดทำให้ดอนเมืองโทเวย์ได้เริ่มดำเนินโครงการสมุดกรีนเวย์โครงการเพื่อยกระดับสิ่งแวดล้อมให้คงอยู่ชั่วลูกชั่วหลานตราบนานเท่านานโทเวย์กรีนเวย์
คูปองดิจิตอลทีวีกสทช.มาแล้วค่ะคูปองครับคูปองดิจิตอลทีวีมาแล้วครับ
วันนี้คูปองมูลค่า690 บาทใช้แลกกล่องเซ็ตท็อปบ็อกซ์หรือเป็นส่วนลดซื้อทีวีดิจิตอลได้ที่ศูนย์จำหน่ายที่มีสัญลักษณ์โครงการ
อย่าลืมอ่านก่อนแล้วเตรียมเอกสารให้ครบนะครับ
แจกแล้ว42จังหวัดภายในสิ้นปีนี้ดิจิตอลทีวีดูดีทุกบ้าน
บริษัท IRPC จำกัดมหาชนพร้อมก้าวสู่ผู้นำด้านปิโตรเคมีและการกลั่นครบวงจร
Welcome back to our ASEAN Community Challenges and Opportunities program. Today's main topic is ASEAN Community Economic Challenges, Opportunities. So without further delay, let's jump into the topic with Dr. Kirida from TDRI. Overall, in the ASEAN community, we are talking about 5 different areas. And maybe you can explain a little bit which are the main 5 areas AEC, the ASEAN Economic Community, will cover.
Exactly. Under the ASEAN Economic Community, there are different objectives that we would like to meet under this community. And one of them is to be integrated as a single production base and also trade and investment flows that are more free in ASEAN. So with that, there are actually 5 sub-pillars, as one would call it, under this particular objective. So first of all, we would like to see freer flows of goods. Secondly, freer flow of investment in the services sector. thirdly, we would like to see greater mobility of professionals within the ASEAN countries. Fourthly, it's the freer flows of capital. That means the stock market, the bond markets will be more integrated so money can flow more freely. And the fifth one is the freer flows of investment in other sectors other than the services sector. So these are the 5 main sub-pillars, as one would say, under the economic community of ASEAN.
And if you look at these 5 pillars, let's start with the first one. It's the easiest one. So free flow of goods. What would be the biggest challenge and what would be the biggest opportunity if you sum it small
Sure.
together?
Under the free flow of goods, maybe let me give you a snapshot of the progress so far, Dr. Wilfred. Actually, as we know, ASEAN is made up of 10 member countries, 6 of which are the original members, and 4, which are Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam, are the new members. So actually, under the free flow of goods, we have what we call the ASEAN Free Trade Agreement, which, you know, many of the countries have already sort of fulfilled their commitments. So actually by 2010, the first 6 original countries have already reduced their tariffs down to 0 for most of their tariff lines under the AFTA or the ASEAN Free Trade Agreement. Then by 2015, the 4 new members, which is Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam, agreed to reduce their tariffs to 0 as well. But they're also given a grace period of 3 years until 2018. So they have a bit more time to reduce most of their tariff lines to 0. But if you actually look at the tariff data so far, we actually see progress in this area, meaning that the original 6 countries have tariffs very close to 0 now. While as the CLMV, or the 4 new members, have also seen their tariffs coming down continuously. It's not 0 yet because they still have time, but it's making pretty good progress. And we think by 2018, most of that will become 0 as well. So I would say on the tariff side, we have made very good progress on that. But of course, there are other areas such as non-tariff barriers, which still have to be negotiated because they're still high, especially on the licensing or the standards, you know, issues which are used as non-tariff barriers in many of the ASEAN countries. So those would still have to be negotiated and reduced going forward. And of course, other than just tariff and non-tariff barriers, if you want freer flow of goods in countries, transportation, logistics between them have to be pretty easy and free. And as we know, looking at, you know, for example, the World Bank's Logistics Performance Index, we see that, of course, you know, the more developed countries in ASEAN have a much better performance in terms of the logistics. And here I'm not just talking about the quality of the physical infrastructure like roads or rail, but also, you know, efficiency of customs, you know, how easy it is to actually drive from one country to another, immigration policies, and so on and so forth. So, you know, I mean, there are many issues still to be ironed out, especially in the CLMV, or the Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam countries, where the logistics system there, including, as I mentioned, you know, the customs and also, you know, the transportation sort of agreements to drive your truck from one country to another, and the immigration policies of drivers, for example, still have to be sort of streamlined. So that is also still another area, I would say, that we would still need to make progress, especially in the 4 new members of ASEAN.
Thank you for that. I have one question for the normal citizen on the street in Bangkok, in Manila. What is the effect of a free flow of goods?
Definitely. Freer flow of goods means that basically that goods that are otherwise not available in one's country, right, can be imported at a lower cost. For example, tariffs, right? Import tariffs that used to be high are now lower, which means that the price of these goods that are imported for consumers in your country will be lower as well. So that you know, reduces the cost of the, you know, the goods as well, and increases the availability of those goods. So, you know, not only tariffs, right? Better logistics, meaning lower logistics costs, that would also lower the, you know, the price of the goods as well. So as we can see, you know, as we, you know, have made quite considerable progress under the, as I mentioned, the ASEAN Free Trade Agreement. Actually, over the past 10 years, trade within ASEAN have really blossomed because of this lower cost of goods. ASEAN countries are trading more amongst themselves because we're quite different. There are countries that are quite developed, like Singapore. There are countries that are sort of developed, like Malaysia and Thailand, and there are others that are trying to catch up. So, because of this diversity, we can actually complement each other in terms of our goods. So, we see a lot of trade going on within ASEAN since we have reduced tariffs. So I'm a bit, optimistic in this area that if we're able to also sort out the non-tariff barriers and also the logistics issues, there should be even more trade within ASEAN itself, because it has already shown that there are actually gains, to a common person in any country when trade of goods is more free.
So it means the normal customer will have some advantages.
Exactly. Greater availability of goods, and those goods will have a lower price as well.
And what about the free flow of investment inside the services?
That is a more challenging area, because traditionally ASEAN countries have been quite protective of their services sector. They're actually more protective of the services sector than the goods sector. So given the high sort of barrier that has existed for many, many years, when member countries agree under the ASEAN economic blueprint that they will integrate more under the services sector, it means that they would have to open up their services sector to greater shareholding by ASEAN member countries. And this means up to 70% of shareholding by ASEAN member countries. So when I actually look at the progress so far in this area, I still see a lot of gap, meaning that many countries are still not opening up, allowing ASEAN member countries and companies from ASEAN to hold up to 70% of shares. As you can, an example will be in Thailand, where we have a Foreign Business Act that only limits foreign shareholding to 49%. So unless each country goes back and sort of amends their law or rules, this 70% shareholdings sort of mark that the ASEAN Economic Community has set will probably not be reached. But it is a work in progress. It is a work in progress. There have been many rounds of negotiations. This is now the 10th round of negotiations under the services business investments. And we see more and more sectors being added by each country as the rounds progress. Of course, they usually add the less sensitive, as one would say, sectors, or sectors that have very insignificant impact on their economy. For example, satellite exploration, that would be one, which would be included in there, because many ASEAN countries don't do that. But in any case, there has been some progress, but much more has to be done, especially in this area.
I mean, in this area also services comes very close with the free movement of labor. I mean, I'm coming from EU, so we have a quite free movement of labor, but as I understand, it's still restricted for the ASEAN area, correct?
Well, it is restricted, especially for professionals, for high talent. Well, ASEAN has been more relaxed on low-skilled labor, so maybe it's about time that we think about exchanging talent among the ASEAN countries. Of course, the exception is Singapore, which has been quite open in welcoming talent to help develop their own country. And we have already seen that Singapore has actually grown by talent from other countries as well. While as the other ASEAN countries at the moment have still a high barrier in allowing talent, as we say, professionals from other countries to join them, not only from ASEAN, but from other countries around the world. So under the ASEAN Economic Community framework, there are, I would say, 7 professions plus hotel and travel, which is 8th area, that member countries have agreed to open up to member ASEAN countries. So, with that, there is the first, 7 professionals are doctors, dentists, and engineers. So very high talent architects. And also in the hotel and travel, there is, also some non-skilled or low-skilled labor there as well, such as, bellboy and pool boys as well. But even so, there are still quite a number of barriers in this area, given that many of the countries still require that, ASEAN ASEAN engineers or architects, for example, would need to have a license once they enter, a country they want to work in.
Okay.
So that's the area that we still need to make more progress on.
Okay, thank you very much. And we are coming back after the commercial break.
มันเป็นขยะแต่รู้ไหมว่าขยะเหล่านี้สามารถนำมารีไซเคิลเป็นสมุดสิ่งที่มีค่าสำหรับพวกเขาได้ด้วยแนวคิดการใช้ทรัพยากรธรรมชาติอย่างรู้คุณค่าและให้เกิดประโยชน์สูงสุดทำให้ดอนเมืองโทเวย์ได้เริ่มดำเนินโครงการสมุดกรีนเวย์โครงการเพื่อยกระดับสิ่งแวดล้อมให้คงอยู่ชั่วลูกชั่วหลานตราบนานเท่านานโทเวย์กรีนเวย์
คูปองดิจิตอลทีวีกสทช.มาแล้วค่ะคูปองครับคูปองดิจิตอลทีวีมาแล้วครับ
วันนี้คูปองมูลค่า690 บาทใช้แลกกล่องเซ็ตท็อปบ็อกซ์หรือเป็นส่วนลดซื้อทีวีดิจิตอลได้ที่ศูนย์จำหน่ายที่มีสัญลักษณ์โครงการ
อย่าลืมอ่านก่อนแล้วเตรียมเอกสารให้ครบนะครับ
แจกแล้ว42จังหวัดภายในสิ้นปีนี้ดิจิตอลทีวีดูดีทุกบ้าน
บริษัท IRPC จำกัดมหาชนพร้อมก้าวสู่ผู้นำด้านปิโตรเคมีและการกลั่นครบวงจร
Welcome back. Here's the ASEAN Community Challenges and Opportunities program in English with today's topic ASEAN Economic Community Challenges and Opportunities. My guest, Dr. Kirida, pointed out some major points and main ideas for the implementation as well as some obstacles. So in the 5 sub-pillars what we have normally in the ASEAN Economic Community, which are free flow of goods, free flow of investment in services, free mobility of labor, skilled labor, free flow of capital, and free flow of investment, we were talking about the 3 main subjects. Free flow of goods, we are quite well off because some consumers already get goods for a cheaper price which were not available before. On the other side, in the free flow of investment in services, some limitations are still exist, and even with the 10th round of negotiations, there's still room for improvement. And of course, skilled labor is a topic which is very limited to 7 professions, and there are more skilled labor, so more exchange of talent. And with that, I would like to ask Dr. Kirida for a final statement, what you would say actually the biggest points, challenges, opportunities for ASEAN Economic Community.
Yes, I would actually say that the challenges would probably remain on the willingness of different member countries to take this integration forward and how serious they are in integration. But of course, the other challenge, other than the willingness of different countries, is also the fact that there are also other competing regional agreements, such as even the Trans-Pacific Partnership, where several ASEAN countries are a member, or the upcoming RCEP, RCEP agreement, which has ASEAN plus China plus India and a few other countries. So those are actually competing, if one would say, with the ASEAN Economic Community as well. So unless ASEAN really sees that integration under the ASEAN Economic Community, can be sort of quickened or made faster, so that one would not have to wait for other regional agreements to take place. Like, for example, RCEP will take a few more years, but we could go ahead with the AEC right now, since we already have the agreement and the framework in place. Then I think there is a lot of opportunities that we can gain from further integration and quicker integration, because as you can see, as I mentioned on the trade side, that once we have integrated in goods, ASEAN has actually traded more and grew more of that. So with the other areas as well, I believe that if we do so, we would be able to trade not only more with each other, but foreign direct investments will also come into ASEAN, because don't forget, ASEAN is the 6th largest region in terms of economic size in the world, and it's one of the fastest growing in the world. So, we're already a pretty sexy, as one would say, region, and if we even do more on our integration, we would probably be able to actually attract more foreign direct investments, trade more among ourselves, and prosper together.
Okay, thank you very much. I think one of the key points of the skilled labor, you are a good example for that. I think Thailand want to keep talent like you in Thailand and not losing the talent to Singapore. This concludes our program today. I would like to thank our guest, Dr. Kirida from TDRI. And I also would like to thank the people before and behind the cameras. And we see each other in the next month's program with the continuation of ASEAN Community Challenges and Opportunities full English program. Good evening and goodbye till next month.